So we've got a new Prime Minister, Liz Truss. What would I do if I was Liz Truss? Hi, this is Moving Home with Charlie, and I'm Charlie. Welcome. And let's get into what Liz Truss might be able to do to help improve the housing crisis in this country. So the day of recording this is the day that Liz Truss is having her first day in number 10. The more I try and look into Liz Truss, the more research I do, the more confused I am about what her policies and politics actually are. She's changed parties from Lib Dem to Conservative. She's changed policy. She changed from Remainer to Leave on Brexit. There are arguments why that's a bad thing and arguments why it's a good thing. But for now, all I can deduce from this is that she is a career politician it's harsh to say it, but it just looks like she's in it for herself, most of all, and for whatever glory she can make. And, she is an unelected Prime Minister. She was not elected by the people in a general election. Having said all of that, I don't think I'd want to be Liz Truss right now when we are facing what a lot of people say and what I think has the potential to be the worst recession in living memory for the UK. It's easily the biggest problem we've faced in a very long time. I think it's bigger than COVID, this problem. And I think it also presents a massive opportunity. So what would I do if I was Liz Truss? I would embark on the biggest house building project this country has ever seen. And I think that wouldn't just solve housing problems, it would solve a whole heap of other social problems. So let's get into the reasons why I would do this. The problems that we face at the moment, massive homelessness. There's over 250,000 people living in temporary accommodation and 40 or 50,000, and no one ever knows because the number changes all the time, sleeping rough. We've got very high rent because there are not enough properties available to rent. We've got very high house prices, which I think are falling, but nevertheless, they are still very high house prices. And even if they fall 25%, they're still going to be high house prices out of the reach of most people. Those three problems, high rent, high house prices, and homelessness, would all be significantly eased with a massive house building project. Now, at the moment, unemployment is officially very low and employment levels are very high. But actually, if you look at how the figures are calculated, there are huge numbers of people on 0 hours contracted who are not considered unemployed. And there are people who are even taking universal credit who are not considered unemployed. And I don't think that we are really getting a good, transparent picture of the truth of the employment situation in this country. Food banks are already saying they've reached their capacity, and as demand for food banks increases coming into the winter, they are not going to be able to service it. They're going to be having to close their doors. On top of that, because of the rising energy prices, small businesses that do not get price caps on their energy are looking at 500% increases in energy, and there's just no way they're going to be able to stay open. Not least because they're going to be seeing, especially the hospitality industry, a lot less business because people are having to tighten their belts because of the cost of living crisis. So small businesses are seeing massively increased costs out of their control, and they're going to see falling sales and revenue. And so on Radio 4 this morning, I heard someone talking about the forecasting of mass bankruptcies next year, 2023. Well, I hope that's not the case, but I fear it is going to be the case. I can't see, even if there is massive government intervention to help pay for rising energy prices, I just don't think the government's going to defend every business against energy price increases when, unlike COVID, which they knew would have an end at some point, nobody knows when these energy prices are going to come down. So they cannot just pour money into the bottomless pit. So that means that unemployment is going to go up. And that's why I think a massive building project would be amazing, because you would be able to create so many jobs all over the country. I think that I would cancel HS2, the high-speed rail link. I would just cancel that. That's just not really going to help anybody enough. It's not a high enough priority right now. And I would put the resources from that and the budget towards that to building homes. and I would give local councils control of where the homes are built, but I would say to them that they've got to build a minimum number, work out what the regional quantities need to be, but enough so that a housing shortage becomes a thing of the past in all of those areas. Not only that, I'd make sure that the properties being built were very energy efficient and wherever possible had solar power so that we begin to see small amounts of energy independence of properties. So rather than having no energy when there's a power blackout, which they're forecasting this winter, or because gas prices are too expensive, if there is some solar energy available from your own building, well, that's amazing. You can probably actually operate in a much better way than if you've got no power or just can't afford your power. It'll reduce the costs and it will improve energy independence and therefore security for everybody. So a massive new house building project of energy efficient, affordable homes with solar panels on top. Now, okay, who builds them? At the moment, house building companies build them. Well, I think the government needs to build them. I think the government needs to build these properties, and then the government can sell, provided it doesn't lead to another housing shortage, allow the tenants who've been in these homes for a long time to buy them in due course. Because everyone would love the security of owning their own home eventually if they can afford it. And if people can afford rent, then they can afford a mortgage. So I know that there are commercial arguments against this, but I just don't think commercial arguments are more important than people's quality of life. And finally, I think we've got such a massive problem with our children's mental health now. And a huge amount of that comes from the quality of housing that these kids are being raised in. And, you know, through my involvement in the property industry, I'm aware of tenants, families, single parent families, double parent families, living in what they can afford, which is often damp and in poor repair, and is not the kind of place that people would love to bring up their children. And it definitely is going to have an impact on those children's life chances and mental health, and therefore their ability to complete their education and set themselves up with good life chances. So I genuinely think that a massive investment in a huge house building project is the best possible investment for this country's future. I think it solves so many problems, including homelessness, unaffordable rent, unaffordable prices. And it can be done in a way that doesn't need to mean a collapse in house pricing. It can be controlled. It'll take a while to do anyway. And if the release is phased, and if the government continues to own it, actually, and is the landlord for a while for these rented properties and then allows people to buy them, all it means is that property prices in the future won't spike. They won't rise so fast, because that's what actually messes everything up. If there's a nice, gentle, predictable increase in house prices, well, that's great for everybody. At the moment, fast rising house prices are only really great for people who own more than one property and can use it to actually speculate and flip and make money. Well, that's nice if you can do it, but not if it's at the expense of other people's quality of life. That's what I'd do if I was Liz Truss. I'd start building as many affordable, energy efficient homes as fast as possible all over the country. And I give local councils powers to do that. And I tell the NIMBYs to go and take a running jump. That's what I do, guys. Have a good one. Hope you enjoyed that video. Bye-bye.